What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Wisconsin Sportsman podcast, which is brought to you by Lone Wolf Custom Gear. I'm your host, Pierce Nellis, and this is your home for all things hunting, fishing, and conservation in the Badger State. Folks, hope you're all doing well. I hope you had a fantastic weekend, hopefully somewhere cooler than where I was. I got restless despite the heat and ran out and checked a couple trail cams, and glad I did, because I found very quickly that after I left, the first deer on camera was a buck, and about 3 hours later, there was a very large raccoon, which happened to adjust my camera angle pretty substantially. And I got I think an 8-day gap of just nothing, and then the head of a doe and what I think was maybe the top of a rack off in the distance. I don't know how the camera even picked it up, but I'm glad that I went out there and checked on that. That's weirdly, it's like my first, I guess, deer chore of the season so far that I've kind of done. I guess I think chore is a strong word for what I did out there, but I don't know. It felt good to get out there, check the cameras a little bit, cover some ground, kind of see what things are looking like this year. But this week, we're going to get to trail cams in a minute here. But before we dive into this week's, got a couple of announcements here. As you all know, coming up Wednesday, August 12th, we have the deer season kickoff. Please, please, please RSVP to that as soon as you get a sec, just so we know that you're coming. We can make sure we got plenty of food for you guys. It's going to be awesome. E-scouting seminars from myself, Derek Malcor, Jacob Sklinner, and Paul Anier, followed by Q&A, hanging out. We've got some great raffle prizes this year. I'm super, super stoked for that. All thanks to Onyx. On that note, too, prior to the deer season kickoff, tomorrow, as you listen to this, on Wednesday at midnight, what the heck week is it? The 29th here. Wednesday, the 29th at midnight, the pre-order ends for Wisconsin Sportsman hats. If you would like to purchase one, hit the woods in style this season, hit the link in the show notes. You'll also be able to find that at the link tree in our social media bio as well. Get those pre-orders in, $25 a hat plus shipping if needed. And last but not least, a new announcement coming up in a little less than a month on the note of e-scouting there. I'm going to be with my good buddies, Derek Malcor and Brian Dombrowski at the Okayest Hunter headquarters over in southeast Wisconsin there. We're going to be doing an e-scouting workshop, going from e-scouting to in-season scouting, breaking down maps. We're all going to come, I believe, with some e-scouting properties that we're going to kind of do some demos on ourselves. And then actually you guys have the opportunity to send your pins, send your areas and stuff, and the three of us will hop on. Oh, Matt Strime as well. Jeez, can't forget him. But the four of us will break down your properties, kind of like what we see on it and stuff like that. It's going to be a ton of fun. Going to be a good way to break in the Okayest Hunter podcast studio. So I'm super excited for that. You can find a link to that. The Eventbrite page is going to be down in the show notes of this as well. And also you'll find links to that all over social media. But this week, you guys, I'm so fired up that I get a chance to chat with the one and only, the host of the Whitetail podcast, the mastermind behind Whitetail Cribs. You'll find him also on the Wired to Hunt channel, on the Back 40 podcast, the one and only Mr. Jake Hofer. Jake, how are we doing today?
Hey, man, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Dude, thanks for making time to come on, man. I'm super fired up. I made the mistake, and I'm sure you can empathize with this. I made the mistake last year. Not a mistake, but I cast the prayer last fall. I think it was like November 7th, November 8th, maybe. I shot you a message and I was like, it's prime time. I know, but maybe there's a chance you want to hop on a podcast and talk rut tactics and specifically trail cam strategy during the rut and all that sort of stuff. As happens during the first couple weeks in November, it didn't happen. So we were out there. Both of us were out there hitting the woods and everything. And I'm stoked that now I have a chance to chat with you and we can really dive into things before the schedules go crazy, before everything goes haywire, and hopefully talk trail cams in a slightly more proactive manner than we otherwise would have been. But dude, how did last season wind up for you?
It was a lot of fun. I actually hunted a ton last year, had more time, and was chasing a really big deer. I did not kill him. Unfortunately, when you were talking about casting a Hail Mary, that was basically my whole season because that deer realistically did not spend a lot of time where I was at. But, every once in a while you find a deer that it's worth spending a lot of time and ultimately like banking on an element of luck. And uh, that was a lot of fun. Passed a ton of really good deer that I would have, shot almost any other year. And then I ended up connecting on a old mature deer on a different track, and basically kind of broke my season up into two legs. And it was to be fully dedicated to that one deer, basically all the way to Thanksgiving, and then deviate to mature. But I still like killing deer. I'm not just a guy that, and deviate to I want to kill a mature buck. And so I cheated on that plan maybe 2 or 3 times. It kind of bit me in the butt the 2 or 3 times I did that. But overall, man, it was a lot of fun. Passed and saw a bunch of bucks, and I'm very eager for this upcoming season because it goes by so fast. It gets here quick, and I am counting down the days to sitting in a tree in October and November.
Hell yeah, dude. Absolutely. Yeah. The mindset's a heck of a lot different when it's October 1st in some states, or I think this year I looked at Wisconsin's, it's like September 12th or something like
Wow.
that. I was like, oh my gosh. The mindset's a lot different than it is in, I don't know, December 11th, December 15th, maybe even holiday hunt time frame there.
Yeah.
Like,
Kind of licking your wounds.
yeah, just a little bit. Yeah. A lot can happen in just a handful of weeks there. But dude, that's awesome. And I like what you said there about you were fortunate to have a buck that was worth putting that much time into. So I think guys can maybe get into the headspace of like every year you're supposed to have that. And I think like hearing that, like, because I mean, last year, like I was in the opposite boat. 2024, I had one that I just burned all my gas on going after, ended up missing him. But last year, kind of just shooting from the hip and was able to connect on one and whatnot down in Iowa. And it was a lot less pressure. I don't want to like, there's something so satisfying about just dedicating a season to just one deer and having that kind of one track mind on everything. But I don't know. I like that you said that it's not an every year pursuit in that regard. But
I'm probably going to do it again
awesome.
this year. So
Yeah, is that buck still around?
TBD. I feel like he is. I mean, when I say the deer doesn't spend much time there, like he doesn't spend much time there, which
Sure.
it's the name of the game. And yeah, that's a trap I often fall into almost every single year. I get a flyer of one that's like, ooh, man. And I go chasing, probably somewhat of an unattainable goal when there's like all these other bucks that if you probably spent 4 or 5 days or, if you spent anything close to the equivalent of energy on the one, you would connect with one of those just because they're there more often. And
Totally.
And so that's a bad habit, but man, it's the thrill of the hunt. That's what it's about.
Yep. Absolutely, dude. Absolutely. Well, dude, August, as this comes out, it's what, July 27th here. So August is right around the corner, man. Like, what is at the front of mind for you right now in the whitetail world?
A couple things are top of mind. Basically, food plots are going to be here, like weather dependent when that rolls in. Actually sprayed a little bit yesterday, prepping another plot, and
Nice.
It's always touch and go. And then like the amount of FOMO and like guys like, dude, you got your plots in yet? Hey, it's like still July. Like, hey, oh man, I think we're gonna get a tenth of an inch of rain. We got to get those in, and that always cracks me up when it's like you sit back and listen to guys that have done it for much longer, and they're like, you have 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, depending on where you're at. And so that's something that's top of mind of getting everything prepped, ready to go. I had one farm where some of the corn got damaged. And so like I have some bonus acres to play with this year too, which I'm pretty excited about. But that's the number one thing. And also getting more and more cameras out. There's some where I just have a couple cameras out and got pictures of one that I want to get more of for sure. And so I have a gross amount of AA batteries that showed up last week, and we're going to be going out and hanging a bunch of cameras, and then move around some tree stands too. And every spring, like, dude, I'm just going to go out there when it's nice out and it's not, a jungle, and I'm just going to get everything set up and prepped. And I did not do that again. So this will be beating the August heat and getting everything prepped and making all those small adjustments from last year of like, man, this stand really needs to be 10 yards to the west, or maybe there needs to be a second set there, depending on the wind speed and everything else, or have stuff pre-trimmed. And it's August is a very important month for whitetails. Like I would argue it might be one of the most important for putting all the foundation in place for, this upcoming season, because that's, once you creep into September, it feels like you're starting to maybe impact negatively if you're in there, monkeying around constantly. But August, that's a very important month. And those are the things that are top of mind for me. But it's, I don't know. It's already the end of July, which doesn't feel right. And then I know August is going to fly right by.
Mm-hmm. Totally, dude. Absolutely. Well, dude, I'm excited to dive into some of those August deer chores and tasks and everything to get ready for the season here. And of course, talk trail cams with you. But before we dive into that, dude, you have one of the most interesting resumes in the outdoor space of like anyone I think I've ever heard of. You. Can you tell us a little bit about, most people I'm willing to bet if you were listening to this podcast, you have crossed paths with something Jake had his fingers in at some point or another there. But Jake, can you kind of run us through, just tell us a little bit about who you are, where you're from and how you got to where you're at now?
Yeah. So kind of a life leads you down some interesting roads. So born and raised in Illinois, grew up on a small deer farm, 15, 20 deer typically, sometimes less, sometimes a little bit more. So grew up around whitetails basically my whole life. Was guilty of growing up in a good area and not realizing, what was really here. And then, throughout the travels of podcasting, trade shows, and, going all across the country, you realize how fortunate you really are to live where you do. So I started as the quicker condensed versions. I started selling deer pee. Because I got bit by the business bug, and I was like, man, I'm in college. I'm paying for my own way here. I got to figure out a way to extract some revenue from something. And I was like, man, we have deer pee. People buy deer pee. And so that was my first endeavor in this space, and I had to learn how to build a website, learn how to do all these different things, figured out how to get labels, source packaging, all these different things. And it was a very rudimentary, looking back, it's comical how bad it was, but it was the foundation of when you're learning how to do all these different things and learning how to market on a shoestring budget. And then I started writing for a website called Wide Open Spaces. And then from there, I started interning at Exodus, became a co-owner of Exodus, bought into that company, and was there for probably close to 7 years. And that's where a lot of the content got birthed, was to ultimately, still on a shoestring budget of creating content to acquire customers and educate folks and just make the outdoor experience better for everybody. And so it was called Trail Cam Radio. That's the Whitetail podcast now. And then we did the Whitetail Cribs. And then, really now do a lot of content. And my main job is selling real estate. That's my day-to-day job. But really blessed and fortunate to have the opportunity to still do a lot of whitetail content and interact with so many great people. So that's the pretty quick condensed version of the last 10 years of my life.
Dude, that's awesome. What a cool, just laden with entrepreneurial aspects path to take, man. To literally be willing to start out and commit to, I'm going to sell deer pee as a college student. That's an interesting one at the bar when you're chatting with somebody and oh, what do you do?
It was bad, man. I was the deer pee guy in college.
Check out this little number here.
Yeah. It's you sell deer pee. It was. I wouldn't change it for anything. It was a lot of fun and learned a lot. And it sounds so silly, but this was when Google was big, and to rank number one for fresh deer urine. Not a lot of people competing for that search
No
term.
kidding.
Yeah, it was pretty easy to rank really high. And I don't know, that it was deer pee was the catalyst of learning all the skills that, you're able to utilize no matter where you're at. And so really was kind of self-taught along the way. And yeah, it was weird. I still get people every year hey, you got any of that stuff for me? It's no, man, I don't have time.
Some OG customers.
Yeah, I feel bad, but I don't have the time, unfortunately.
That's awesome. Yeah, that needs to be like in the LinkedIn header, like #1 Google ranked deer pea salesman
Yeah,
2020.
2017, probably 2015, maybe.
That's awesome, dude. Do you still run synthetics or not necessarily synthetics? Do
Yeah,
you still run deer pea or like having stepped away from that side of the industry for a little bit? You run them?
not a ton,
Yeah.
not a ton. I mean, what was cool about it was I could literally just go out back and get pea that was like ultra fresh. And
Hmm.
so did it make an impact? I like to tell myself that it did, but I don't know how much of a difference it really made. But man, it was really cool. And the crazy thing too is like the does would come in estrus about the same time every year. So it's like all these different things that you were kind of able to learn from deer and deer behavior, and how like when the buck started acting, super cagey and all these different things, they start pacing around the outside of the fence, and it's like, dang, it's on. And
Hmm.
so like having it was deer cast in my backyard growing up is basically what it was. It's like windy,
Totally.
nasty day, and they're all bedded down in a corner, or like it's a high pressure, cool front day, and they're up, moving around, milling around. So it, like really crazy. You don't really realize that when you're growing up how strange that is. But as you get older, you're like, yeah, that was a very unique childhood and experience growing up.
Yeah, definitely, dude. That's so cool. Just having the exposure to, I mean, it's effectively like watch in a vacuum or in a fenced in area, controlled space, like being able to watch that behavior actually translate from woods to pen, for lack of a better term there. Like, I mean, and actually see those things come to fruition. Was there anything during that time that you look back and you're like, and this was a myth. This doesn't actually hold true, looking back at how the deer
Mm.
behaved in the pen.
Well, I think oftentimes like the biggest myth when it comes to like buying that product, like hot like estrus doe, the estrus cycle of a doe is very short, like very short.
Right.
The fact that we can stock all of our shelves across the entire country, and Amazon can sell thousands of units of fresh doe estrus, I mean, that's a straight up myth, in my
Yeah.
opinion. Like if you just look at the captive deer herd and the amount, I mean, that's just my opinion. But I would say that's one myth. The other thing too is, I mean, like sometimes like I don't. I mean, myths 10 years ago, I would say like there would be a lot more to debunk. But like as a community, we've all become so much more educated. Where like I could rattle off some things like, oh yeah,
Right.
I already knew that.
Hmm.
And so overall, as like I would say, as a community, we've all become a lot sharper. So nothing that would really, I think, shock you completely would be, I guess, my answer to that. I know it's kind of boring, but that's my
Hmm.
answer.
No, I like that because I think you're absolutely right. We have kind of evolved as a hunting community just with the amount of information out there and available, which is a good problem to have. I'd rather have more educated hunters hitting the field to an extent, no doubt. But no, that's super cool, dude. Well, dude, so you mentioned like you were working for Exodus. I know you've got an extensive background in trail cams and everything. Looking back kind of on that same note of like looking back at like the earlier years, maybe working on the deer farm and stuff, but from your time working in the outdoor industry in the space, how has your trail cam strategy evolved from those early days of maybe getting those first couple cameras to what you're running now?
Yeah. Well, I was really blessed from the opportunity of being able to run a lot of cameras. Like before, like you had to buy them, and like, oh, I got,
Mhm.
one on this piece and one on this. Like you were not gathering enough intel other than maybe what was around. And then as I, started there, I started running more and more cameras, and like started really picking up a lot of different trends that, once again, then felt like there wasn't a lot of people talking about it, but now it's like second nature, where it's like, man, every year, late October, I get a giant. And then he's in there like between the 7th and 12th of November. These are all my low odd bucks. That's why I didn't kill him. That's why it sticks with me. And so like just seeing that trend almost every single year, like figuring out different where deer are spending time with different habitat types and what type of deer. And then like I've hunted a lot of permission over the years. So like it's not, you know, it was kind of a shortcut to woodsmanship in some sense. It's like, this is a bottom before the first hard frost. Like there's going to be deer bedded in here. There's going to be a lot of opportunity after that first hard frost comes in. And then, all those soft wood trees, they drop all their leaves. The reed canary grass lays down. It's going to become a ghost town. And like, as a kid, I would still hunt there with the knowledge of like, oh man, they were in here in October. They're still going to be here, where it's like, no, they've completely shifted and moved around. And I feel like running a lot of cameras allowed you to understand different windows of opportunity, and ultimately just like how and when deer, feed, where they bed roughly. And, obviously they've come a super long ways in the last 7 years, even from where it was, standard cameras. And now, all the different cell cameras that are available now, it's like, it's pretty impactful to see that now. But I felt like I was able to kind of like scratch that itch or like see that the tip of the iceberg. Before a lot of people were running a gross amount of cameras. Cause like before, like I would, at trade shows, like, oh man, how many cameras you run? Like, oh, I run, 3 or 4, or, like a couple of years later, like, oh, I run 7 to 10. And then a couple of years later, it's like, I'm at like 20 to 40. And then now it's like, I run 50. Like seeing people just adding more and more cameras. So like they've been able to see a lot of the things that I was able to see maybe a glimpse of beforehand, because I was running a lot of cameras to get content for socials, and also for my own selfish reasons of wanting to see what's out there. But looking back, the technology has this really accelerated. I don't know how. I mean, like, it's just simply accelerated so fast, like in the span of 3 or 4 years. And now I feel like it's all about battery optimization. And it's like, this is the core product, great image, reliable. Now let's figure out, power consumption issues, all these different things. So it's like, as a deer hunter that wants to use cameras, like, I would say we're probably in the golden age of cameras, honestly.
Right. Totally. Yeah. Where all the stuff's progressing. It hasn't quite been starting to be, but hasn't fully been restricted yet, or we don't have too many parameters or anything on it there. That's super cool, man. What, you mentioned like the guys are running like 50 cameras and stuff like that. Like, do you think there's a point? Now, obviously it's a huge, it depends here, so forgive me, but do you think there's a point where you start to reach critical mass where it's like another 6 cameras isn't going to help you? It's going to start actually like hurting your hunt strategy. Because after a point, it's like, I don't even know where I would put 40 some cameras, to be honest.
Yeah.
I don't have enough permission on ground, I guess I should say that.
Yeah. I bet I ran probably 30-ish cameras last year across 5 or 6 farms. And so some of those were more, like obviously where I was trying to chase that deer, there was more on that farm than some of the other ones. But I think you're exactly right. To where you truly become too dependent on the cameras, you get a little lazy. I mean, I hunted a lot last year, and like there'd be mornings where it's like in an observation stand, you can see this huge area, and you check the app and you're like, oh yeah, I got like 2 pictures. I saw 4 different bucks, walking around and milling around looking for does. And so like I do think there's a point where you can become too dependent on them. And also I think, depending on the size of the property or where you're at and what your goals are, yeah, I mean, you could be kind of just jumping around. Like, I feel like that's something that, that I have been very guilty of in the past, of like, hunt here for 2 days, go somewhere else for 2 days. And it's like, you don't even learn anything or figure anything out. You're just chasing your tail nonstop. And this was even like before cell cameras, because I was so paranoid about like burning out a spot. It's like, well, like my access was good. I wasn't really bumping any deer in and out. And like, I had very little ground scent. Like I could have been in there more often and probably learned more. So, I think it's an evolution that a lot of people have to go through, and it's probably some form of self-discipline, and you have to make those mistakes, be like, okay, I have to course correct this. And I'm still far from perfect by any means, but overall, I think that's something that everyone, runs into, because dude, they're addicting. Anyone that buys a cell camera, there's a friend that just texted me and he's like, hey, what camera should I get? And I texted him and I was like, dude, he needed it for like security, but I know what he really wanted it for. That was the household excuse to get. Yeah. That was the household excuse to get one. And I told him, I was like, they need to start putting a warning label that these are highly addictive.
Because put them behind the counter. Yep.
Yeah. And it's like, man, you're going to buy one, and by the end of the year, like, oh, Black Friday, I'm going to buy 4 more. And next thing you know, you have 20 cameras in a blink of an eye.
Mm-hmm. Totally, dude. That's hilarious. Yeah. It's a weird, because I feel like right now we've got 2 polarized ends a little bit here. We've got the guys who want more and more and more cameras, and then you've got the other guys who are now starting to kind of almost be like the hipster hunters and, reject the technology and only scout and just kind of do it I don't want to say old school, because they're still doing it, but like, doing it without the technology on their side. Which is I don't know. That's the fun of it though. Like you said, like you got to figure out how much technology can you handle for one, and how much do you like to scout, and how much do you like kind of messing around with different areas, and how well do you know them already and everything. But
And
yeah.
I can see difference, I can see that. And I've seen that with people too that I know pretty well, where they ran a bunch of cameras and they just say, forget it. I'm going old school. I like to see what deer look like year over year. I like to learn all the different trends. Now, if your goal was to go out and shoot a buck that gets you excited, I think you can 100% do that without trail cameras. But it's so much more rewarding when it's like you're putting the pieces together. It's a deer that you have some history with. It's a deer that you know of. And, it's a deer that it's November 11th and he comes barreling through the woods. You don't have to guess what deer it is, like, because you've already, oh yeah, he's got that little crooked two on that right side. That's him. And like all those little things are like what I think is fun. But I'm not knocking anyone. I think likely that'll continue to progress as people feel too connected, or they get short circuited and can't figure out where to go because they're paralyzed of trail camera pictures. So I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's a full constant evolution for sure. But man, I like running them. I mean, it's fun. It's
Totally.
cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, I mean, like it's beyond just the deer too that you get the pictures of that are freaking cool. Like, I don't know,
Yeah, you get a
bug
picture of a
out.
pheasant or something, or you get a picture of a bobcat, or
Totally.
or even just a little fawn messing with a mock scrape. Like, I don't know, it's pretty cool still.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, dude, on that note, I'm gonna go a little bit out of order here on the outline here, but I like the direction that we're going here. If you were to run cameras in pursuit of a specific deer again, like walk me through kind of what are the types of areas that you like to focus on? How does that vary from just like, say you've got another property without a buck that you're specifically after? Like, how are you prioritizing and kind of spreading your web of cameras to target one specific buck? What are the types of terrains, features, areas that you like to key in on?
One of my favorite trail camera locations is a scrape outside of a bedding area. Maybe there's this little open pocket. Does could easily bed in front of the camera, but that is a really, like, if I had one camera location, it's those scrapes. That was something I learned a long time ago too, when a couple different things I learned. Like, it was conventional wisdom at the time to think that, like, oh, if you pulled most hunters at a trade show, I'm not saying like guys that have way more experience and have dedicated their life to hunting, but like if you took the average guy and said, I like to run cameras on scrapes year round, they said, well, they only use them late October and the beginning of November. That would have been conventional wisdom. But I had a bunch of cameras, so I was like, I wonder when, and you see like, oh, in velvet, they're hitting this. Oh, even when they shed their antlers, they're still hitting this. And it's, oh, he's got a cut in his ear. It's that same deer, he made it through. So like, to me, that is in a state that you can't bait, like Illinois, like that is probably one of the best locations to get the most amount of intel. Put a solar panel on that sucker and let it soak year round. And even for a specific buck, like postseason scouting, you mark on Onyx all the different scrapes, and then maybe the following year you run cameras on a lot of those scrapes, and it's like, okay, he 2 out of 3 times he hits this one and only one. So it's like, that's an idea of when he's in the area. I'm not saying go sit on that scrape, but he's in the area and that's where your opportunity's at. The other one is like some of the obvious things of fence gaps if you're in farm country. Sometimes the so obvious spots where it's like, I think we often overcomplicate it. It's like, well, you have this trail, which is what the does and young bucks walk on. And then you have this faint trail. That's where the big bucks walk from. Now, in parts of the country, that may be totally accurate, but I would say probably for 80% of the country, the buck's going to walk by in the obvious spot at some point. And it's like, this camera's not telling you exactly when to be there and wait for him to walk by that trail again. It's like, when is he going to be in this area? What is the wind the following day or 2 or 3 days from now? And like, how is he likely going to be using the wind? Where are the does likely going to be bedded? Like all these different things, like that's the catalyst of allowing you to have critical thinking, to not overthink it, but just to understand like, hey, I have a chance. I have to be there. And there's a good probability he's in this square mile, or 80 or 40, depending on like what the terrain's like in the area. But that's another one. Another area that I like that is just a brutal place to hunt, and I've never had success and kind of have given up, is, a scrape on the bottom. Picture multiple ridges coming down, and I walk a lot of farms, for selling land, and it's like oftentimes, it's like there should be a scrape down here, and you're looking around like, oh, there is, where all the scent pools down in there. Bucks feel safe, and that's a great inventory location. Are you going to go set up on that scrape Probably not. I
Good
tried
luck.
it.
Yeah.
I tried it. Doesn't work. Doesn't work for me anyways. So that's another, scrapes and a bottom. Great inventory location. Or like I said, scrapes on the top where there's bedding nearby. So like those are even hunting for a specific deer, but like even if you just want to get general inventory, like maybe you have an inside corner in ag field, like you don't have any food plots, but a low spot in the field that has an inside corner is like a double win there to where
Mhm.
they're likely going to be fitting out there at some point, and you can get a good idea of what's going on for that particular area. But like the one thing I don't think people often realize, like the food sources change so fast and so rapidly based off of the weather. So like you have a camera there and the white oaks are dropping their acorns and it's like, this place is dead. But if you had the camera up 80 yards further south, for example, on that flat, you would see the deer bedded in there. So I think those are, scrapes, fence gaps, inside corners, kind of all the same locations that could be a great stand location, honestly, too.
Mhm.
Um, I've hung them in more sensitive areas or like on tighter on trails. Like it's been okay, but I just feel like this season, just watch a deer and be like, okay, how many times could I have gotten this picture if I had cameras in different locations? And it somewhat depended on how much you can see where you're hunting, but there's a lot of good spots. You just got to have them out there. And there's best spots. That's our job, is to try to figure out where they're at, but it's hard to sometimes guess that. But I would start with the obvious.
Hey guys, I just wanted to take a quick sec to tell you about Lone Wolf Custom Gear. Lone Wolf Custom Gear is as good as it gets when it comes to mobile hunting equipment. Whether you're a saddle or stand guy, public land or private, Lone Wolf Custom Gear has a set of sticks, a stand, a camera arm, and any number of accessories to get you closer to your target buck. To make it even better, everything is 100% USA sourced and made right here in the Midwest, and it's even assembled right across the river in Iowa by hunters who love chasing deer just as much as you do. To build your kit today, go visit lonewolfcustomgear.com. Now, let's get back to the episode. Mm-hmm. I like that, dude. I like that a lot. And like, especially what you said there about the fence gaps and the travel and stuff, because I think so often we hear guys, maybe it's just me and I'm guilty of it because this is very much my strategy. It's like, I don't run a whole lot of cameras, but just enough to kind of get an idea of what's in the areas. That I will key in on like some of those scrapes, whether it's a hub scrape down in the bottom,
Mm-hmm.
just to see what bucks are cycling through an area. Or, I've got one on a, like, not really a travel scrape, but kind of a travel scrape right now, because it's just kind of along this bluff edge. I wanted to see what the yearly movement was like and stuff this time of year as we head into the season. But I like that you aren't afraid to not afraid. That's a little dramatic, but I like that you're, including like the fence gaps, those low wires and stuff like that, oftentimes we look at them and we're like, I think, again, probably just me. I look at those and I think maybe a great spot to maybe set up on, but I never hang a camera on it. And like, maybe I ought to, just to start actually kind of seeing what type of a cycle, what direction is that buck coming from? Where is he going? And all that sort of stuff. When it comes to like getting cameras out this time of year, and I guess then progressing throughout the season and stuff, like this time of year, where are those August trail cam locations for you right now? And do they change as we start getting into September, October? Are you just adding to the spread? Like, kind of walk me through your strategy in terms of like,
I'm added to the spread a lot of times, to be honest. But if you were not adding to the spread, like August, I think obviously soybeans are still really awesome. And so like I would say that one you'd likely need to change unless there's a terrain feature on that field that should have some strong deer movement. Alfalfa, for example, great. This is the Wisconsin. There's a lot of alfalfa in Wisconsin, so inside corner on alfalfa field or like on the backside of a knoll, that's great, and that'll be great for a long time. I mean, even last year it was in December, and it was just the way for whatever reason, with how the snow came and like insulated this alfalfa. I mean, they were still hitting the alfalfa as a preferred food source all the way into December here. And so I think in that scenario, you could let that thing soak there for a very much longer time than what you necessarily would think. Also in August, I mean, if you have a scrape on a field edge or something like that, like I still think that's a great location that could remain there. I'm trying to think of some examples where you'd likely want to change things. Like when the crops come out, or even right before they come out, or if you have the ability you have a cell camera on the edge of a field and you see the guys in there with combine. It's like, okay, now's my time to go in there, hang that stand, put up some more cameras while they're all out here and getting that stuff done. I try to do that for any farms that are nearby, and just have floater cameras ready to rock and roll and do like a quick edge scout, hang them up, and you'll be shocked how many times that evening it's like, dang, I should have hunted here. But you never know when they're going to get done. It's the challenge of that. But those are some things that I think are really important. A lot of the locations here in August, aside from soybeans, like they likely could still be a good location. But it all comes down, if you run 4 or 5 cameras, you're probably going to want to reship them and put them on hotter sign. If you're adding to the spread, some of them I think you could leave. I would say probably 80% of them you could leave where they're at. And the other thing too is I think cell cameras have probably spoiled us in some sense. And this is something that everyone at Exodus did a lot. And I think it's common practice now too, is the soaker cameras, where you'd go put a standard camera and just leave it alone the whole year. I feel like now with cell cameras, the batteries often don't last forever. If you haven't had a picture, it hasn't made you excited in the last 2 weeks, you're going to go in there and grab it. And I think a lot of times, like, depending on the habitat type, like there's short windows where it might be the best spot out of all the locations you have. But if you're moving your cameras around constantly, you're going to miss that. And I still think, having standard cameras or having the patience to leave cameras out for a longer period of time, you're going to get some key intel at some point that you would have missed otherwise. So I do think people give up on spots a little bit too early if it feels like, man, and even if it doesn't pan out, well, then for sure to some degree. I mean, obviously camera doesn't capture everything, but it's like, man, not knowing and knowing are equally powerful as you move forward.
Yeah, definitely, dude. Yeah, it's a couple of years ago when I was hunting this river bottom, and I had 2 cell cams with me, and that was a huge, like, to your point, that was a huge factor in kind of honing in on that deer and like not just ruling out, like you said, like you can go on, there were a handful of different trails and you just happened to cross the one, but it did influence quite a bit on terms of like, okay, I feel like I've pushed him further down this river bottom a little bit, and it seems like he's more comfortable. He's showing up more frequently on this lower camera than he is on this upper camera, and like it absolutely does, I think, influence and just help to write off, because like you said, that's just as important as knowing where the hot zone is, knowing where the cold zone is and stuff. I like that. When you look at trail cam photos over the course of the season, what data points are you most concerned with? Like, are you looking at pressure, wind direction, temperatures? I guess, are you the kind of guy who do you run the spreadsheet with all the data from all the cameras and all
for some deer I do, absolutely. And I was hopeful that would be more impactful this last season. It just didn't necessarily ring exactly true. But I think all those things you just mentioned, wind direction is obviously a very important one. The conditions of it, oftentimes we're like, I do firmly believe in annual trail camera data, but it's like, okay, if he was here November 10th last year and that front is going to hit the 12th this year, it's like, well, probably still need to burn a couple days in there. But wind direction, barometric pressure, overall conditions and temperature, wind speed would be another one. Like maybe it was super windy that day and he was down in the bottom to get out of the wind. So like the more intel you can grab from that. And I say all this, but at the end of the day, they're deer and they're still probably gonna do whatever the hell they want. Like there's days I wake up and I'm like, I don't know, yeah, I'll do this instead of that, and change my mind, right? It's like, I know it's weird to humanize a deer, but it's like they can get a wild hair too. I mean, they're wild animals, but I do think those are all pillar data points to keep in mind, especially when you're starting to hunt for a particular deer. And I think you could bracket it into early October. For Illinois, we'll open October 1. So early October, what was kind of going on the first 7 days of the year, and then late October, what's going on that time period, and then kind of the peak of the rut, and then towards the end of November, what is going on, and kind of bracket each of those and figure out kind of what trends you can pick up. And then obviously okay, this is the first time we got a bunch of snow and they're standing beans, what deer showed up, or did it take multiple weeks of cold, nasty weather before they showed up? All those different things can at least point you in the right direction, but there's still it's a lot of guess and check. All of this is guess and check. And it's I wish I could tell you, hey, if you do this, it'll work perfectly. It's not the reality, unfortunately.
No. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Was it corn or beans or alfalfa or whatever? What was in that field, just up the ridge or whatever it may be. Yeah, dude, that's that's the fun of it, right? It's these
Well,
deer are weird, and yeah,
or even neighboring pressure. It's like, okay, these folks
dude, totally.
start to really hit it hard November, and like there's going to be a redistribution of deer with the added pressure. So if you stay out, like you should get more benefits, later on, or maybe you're the guy that starts hunting way early and they all disappear. Like, so
Yep.
that's another key element of even like were there cows in there last fall, or were there like all these different things. It's like you have to just kind of think critically, but don't fall into the trap of overthinking, because I think that's like I
Right.
have to preface it with that because it's very easy to do.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, dude. I'm so glad you mentioned that about neighboring pressure, and because I mean, just that's something that I've always kind of been aware of, but didn't really factor it into like the hunt strategy until all of a sudden it was like, oh shoot, like you said, I'm the early one this year. Like I'm the only one who's been blowing up this little corner of a 5-acre chunk, and the rest of the neighbors, they are still waiting for Halloween or the first week in November, and like yeah, you don't. I think we all picture our deer hunting pressure around like its peak, right? And then we're just like, well, we got this many guys hunting around this area, and it's a zoo. But dude, you never know. I mean, that's like the benefit of talking to the neighbors and having good relationships with them too, right? It's like making sure like, oh, so and so's grandson in high school is going to be out here every day after school, or on the weekends and everything. Okay, the pressure just changed significantly over there. Not to bash the kid, but I would imagine like high school kids probably going to hunt a little bit differently than maybe you or I would, or his grandpa would, or whatever it may be. And I don't know, man. I've been wrestling with that a lot this year, because I started to actually crunch the numbers on like, okay, like opening weekend of our 9-day, like what is the actual hunter density of like a square mile? And I like racked it up. I'm like, there's like 17 of us out here. Like what? That seems way too high for what everybody talks about. Like private land. Oh, it's easier. It's this and that compared to public, and public. Oh, it's like way over. I've never in my life seen. I don't think in a season. I've got a handful of properties. I haven't seen 17 people over the course of the entire year at some of these spots. And like,
Yeah.
we're all doing it on private, but what do you do, man? Dude, on the note of cameras, circling back to that, if you were to, it's like not everybody runs a bunch of cameras and stuff. Like if you were to only run a handful of cameras, like if I were to give you 2 cameras to hunt, try and give you as much data as possible here, to hunt 100-acre chunk in like farm country, how are you using those 2 cameras over the course of the season?
I'm going to find the best scrape outside of bedding. That's for sure where one camera is going to go. Is there food on this piece at all? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm
going to give you oaks and ag. Yeah.
Okay. I feel like oaks are so hard to pin down where with the camera, so I got to go highest odds and find a good inside corner on the other food source. And if that food source changes, or if I'm out hunting and I want to move the food camera on another scrape potentially, and then I would maybe just keep kind of bouncing. I know it's counterintuitive to what I just said, but I would still use my eyes and observation, and depending, move the one camera. But in every farm typically should have one just really good scrape if the habitat's half decent. And
right.
that's I mean, I could probably get away with just the one. Honestly, I think I would potentially, if there was 2 of them, I'd put 2 of them, one on each one, to answer that question.
For sure. I like that. Are you the kind of guy who deploys extra cameras and stuff mid-season? I mean, we mentioned earlier.
Yeah,
you're,
for sure.
You're dropping cameras with you and stuff. What is the type of sign that gets you excited? You're like, I need to put a camera here to figure out what's going on right now.
Sometimes new sign that pops up that looks really good, or if I observe a bunch of deer using one specific location or one travel corridor, even if the picture's at night, I'm still hanging one up there. And so I don't bring a camera with me every single time I go, but I try to have one most often ready to deploy if you go in and you hunt. I still hunt a lot out of saddle, and I hunted a bunch last year, and I can't tell you how many trees I hunted out of. And so like sometimes having that extra floater camera is key. Or even if it's like, man, this is the spot and you might need 2 cameras here. I'm not too bashful to do that. Now granted, like I try not to have the camera like stick out like a sore thumb. Like I often use a stick and I try to, somewhat hide it to the best of my ability. And so that's one thing I want to make sure, because you don't want to, like, where every deer's like snaps their head. Like if you have it on video mode, like snap their head, or you're going to leave scent when you hang it. Like I don't care what happens. So it's like, those are all the different things that are top of mind when you're doing that. But I mean, man, yeah, if there's a deer I'm trying to learn more about, or a property I'm trying to learn more about, like, great way to learn really quick, or at least, at least have an idea of what's going on.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. You mentioned nighttime photos there, and that's something that I feel like a lot of guys can either get really hung up on, and you potentially throw a season away on, or they just disregard because like, it wasn't in daylight, doesn't matter. How do you interpret nighttime photos of bucks?
I used to be that way. I'll give you an example of a story that haunts me. This was pre-cell camera days, peak Exodus days of like when it was just me and my partner Chad working on the business. I don't know if Cameron was with us at that time or not. I don't think he was yet. So it was just literally 2 guys running that thing. And so I snuck out and hunted. There's an awesome deer. It haunts me. And, like conventional wisdom, and this was my other point earlier that I forgot to get to, is it's, scrape on a logging road in the middle of the night, he's not going to show up. Like that narrative was in the back of my mind throughout that time, like low odds. And then so like I did a hang and hunt, I think it was November 9th, and I hung a set. The same day I hung a camera, so pre-cell camera, and then like I hunted. And so meanwhile, this whole time, showed up late October, did not have any velvet pictures of him. I'm like, damn, that's a giant deer. And from then all the way to November 9th, no daylight activity. Checked the cameras as I went in that day, and then had to get ready for Black Friday. Was already hunting a bunch for like the last 2 weeks. I was like, okay, I got to get back to work and like dedicate some thoughts. Dude, that deer from like November 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th was in there chasing does all over the place and was like, I could have picked a tree and I would have killed him. And like, it haunts me, but like that narrative of, well, it's, he's not in daylight. He's not in daylight. Mm-hmm. Well, he was in there way more than probably what I even realized. And, I discounted it because of the nighttime picture. So I think time of year, nighttime pictures is something really important to pay attention to, but I'm telling you, I've seen this happen so many times. Big deer shows up late October, call it 26th to Halloween, on a scrape in the evening. That deer is going to be in there during the daylight sometime in the first 12 days of November.
For sure.
Guarantee it. Like, guarantee it. And that's taking me time to realize that. But it gives you conviction to go and do that. Because like, man, I've seen this. This is likely what's going to happen. Am I going to be in the right spot? Who knows? But I have a legitimate chance. And, that was something that I had to learn the hard way, and that deer, and that's why it's a good lesson, because that haunts me. It really does.
Yep, totally, dude. Yeah, I love that, man. And like, that's something that for sure takes, unfortunately, a lesson like that to really get that point home. I feel like in terms of, like just knowing that, like, okay, like you're right, this time of year, the odds of him not coming through are so slim, so minimal, unless he gets shot in the ass by somebody else or, whatever. And even then, he's probably going to show up and he'll just be a little bit slower. But
so here's another example. I had, so that was, I can't remember what year it was, doesn't matter. But then the following year, same thing happened, giant, on a scrape, late October. And I was like, son of a gun, I learned my lesson last year. Dude, I camped out on this farm for 6 all-day sits. Like, he's going to come through this pinch. Like, I'm just going to grit it out. And I'm sitting in the stand, like, crappy signal, and I got a text from a neighbor. And this is like literally day 6 of sitting dark to dark. Farm wasn't super close. Like, it was just a pain in the butt. Mm-hmm. And, like, had seen some other deer, like, but still it wasn't like, man, I'm in it. Like, I was probably wasting time. And I just remember day 6, it's like 1 o'clock. I'm still, ready to sit all day. And a neighbor texts me. He's like, hey, dude, bad news. So-and-so shot that deer, sends me a picture of it, grip and grin. And he had been dead for 2 days on top of that. And, it was something ridiculous like that. I literally just packed up and went home. I was like, all right, yep. So there's a double-edged sword of that where it's like, to your point, is the deer alive or dead? But that was like, okay, I learned my lesson. And then you go in
Yep.
and you grit it out, and then it's like, damn, it just didn't work. Wasn't meant to be.
I learned another lesson. Not sure
Yeah.
what the point of it was, but I learned another one.
Yeah, but that was funny.
Dang,
But it was
dude.
the same, but the silver lining of that, it was still like the same pattern of late October, got killed. That would have been probably, I bet he got killed like the 9th-ish. So like late October, deer shows up. 9th to the 12th, I would say, or 8th through the 12th is like when there's a really good chance he's going to be looking for another doe and running around. And it's like hard. And I get why people say they don't like to hunt the rut, because it's a lot of luck, but it's a lot of luck, but at least you're stacking the cards the best you possibly can for that time of year.
For sure. Definitely, dude. Dude, you've interviewed and visited some people who have shot and harvested, I mean, some incredible whitetail deer, right? Through like doing the stuff with cribs and obviously through your own podcast and everything. What have you noticed is like the common trend in terms of the like across the board with these folks in terms of I'm going to go twofold here. One, how they use trail cameras, and two, just how they pursue deer and just kind of like their mentality.
I'll answer the second question first. They are extremely hard workers. Like they do not leave much up for chance. And so that doesn't mean, oh yeah, they leave so much food. It's, they're going to, no, I'm talking like TSI, habitat, access, just constantly improving the property to where they are stacking the odds the absolute most in their favor possible. Like all these guys work exceptionally hard, and I honestly feel bad for some of those folks. Oftentimes, where like it's easy to like poke fun or like, oh yeah, I could do that. I don't think you could. I don't think you could. I don't think you could, because you won't have the time and dedication to do all of the prep work, all the strategy, utilize decades of experience to stack their odds as much as possible. That's by far the biggest like miss that people just don't fully understand. Those guys are obsessed, completely obsessed, and work relentlessly to stack their odds. In terms of trail cameras, I feel like they do rely quite a bit on it, but like their mouse traps are pretty tight. Like they're one-way doors. There's only one way in. And so I feel like oftentimes like when they get a picture, it's like not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And I think that's where people get frustrated, because oftentimes they exude a lot of confidence, because of the fact that they have like things dialed in and they're ready to rock. Where like some like myself, like I don't have things dialed into the level that they do. And I don't have the level of confidence they do either, because I understand there's still quite a bit of chance. And so I think just getting a picture or understanding like how the deer typically use the property over, year over year, and, ready to go all in when the time is right. So that's what I've really observed over the years. And I think, and that's more so the people that, that the couple people that probably come in top of mind, naturally. But then you think of someone like John Eberhard or Bobby Worthington. Like they both work hard, but John likes to fish. He likes to fish in the summer, and but he has all his spots already prepped and ready to go. So like he still falls into that same category of, hey, when it comes time, like I'm not bumbling around. Like I have a plan. I'm set up. I have 60 spots ready to go, and I'm going to make it happen. So I think really no matter who it is that consistently finds a lot of success, it all comes down to the prep work and just the sheer obsession of trying to do your best.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't you don't put that much of your, entire livelihood into the pursuit of deer if you're not willing to work hard for it. You don't truly have like a borderline sick obsession with
For
this
sure.
pursuit, right? Like,
Yeah.
you have to be willing to do the crazy things. Dude, what do you got lined up for this fall?
Man, I'm really sticking put here in my home state.
Nice.
I'm pretty excited about it. Really, this might be the first year last year I traveled. Year before that, I did not. I don't know. I'm kind of like an every other year guy. I'm very thankful and grateful to have ample opportunity here, and I don't have to go somewhere else. It is always fun to do that every now and then, but we're gonna plan on staying here and working and hunting as much as I possibly can. So I'm excited. I really am.
Heck yeah. In a way, yeah, when you get to hunt just at home, and it's like you don't have the distractions of out of state stuff for a season. It's kind of it's almost relieving. Like it kind of feels like not nostalgic, but like you're going back to your roots and just really like leaning in hard for it. And I don't know, dude, that's exciting. I'm stoked for you to focus on the stuff close to home. So I don't know. It's like anything, right? You get to really get intimate with an area that you've got history with, find something that maybe nobody else knew about, hopefully, and just fully commit to it. And doesn't help, or it definitely helps that you don't have to burn too much fuel and boot leather to get there and everything. That's
Yeah.
It opens up a different window of like types of hunts, right? It's like you can get that hour and a half after work or before work, sit in very easily and get after it, dude. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Dude, I can't thank you enough for your time and for coming on the show and just sharing your knowledge and your experience and everything with me. Where can folks go if they want to follow along with you and everything that you got coming up this season?
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. It's always fun. I'm far from an expert. These are just my observations. So hopefully, one or two things help people this upcoming fall. And you can find me on YouTube, WHTL for the Whitetail podcast and Whitetail Cribs. We're going to be doing, I think, 8 episodes this fall. Probably starting sometime, probably the first week of October. We'll start posting all those. We just wrapped up a trip to Georgia. That was a lot of fun. And then on Instagram, I'm not super active there, but it's just at Jake Hofer. And so I appreciate you having me on.
Dude, I appreciate your time, man. Any teasers you can drop for us in terms of the Cribs episodes?
Yeah, I'll just tell you 2 of them that we're really excited to release. Went to Real Tree Farms with Bill and Tyler Jordan.
Sick.
They were incredible hosts, so much fun. Really enjoyed our time there. And then Michael Waddell as well. So we have 2
Nice.
that have been on our long-term goal list to do some content with. So they both are going to be excellent episodes. And we have some others that'll be scattered throughout the season, but those are probably the 2 crown jewels as of now.
Heck yeah, dude. I love it, man. Well, dude, thanks again for your time, man. This was awesome. Good luck this fall and stay in touch, dude. Oh, you've got a deer season kickoff coming up of your own too.
In September. Yeah, we're gonna be premiering one of those episodes actually in person. A bunch of giveaways. Obviously, mutual partner here, Onyx. Really grateful for them, and be giving away a bunch of different stuff. So if someone's want to make a trip, that's great. But if you're also in the area, in the Peoria area, you're welcome to come, and would love to have you this September. And we'll have that shared out when we solidify the date.
Heck yeah. Just do it before September 12th so the Wisconsinites can make it down there and they won't be in the middle of their bow season by then.
Fair.
Yeah. That's awesome, dude. Well, hey, man, this has been awesome, dude. Thanks again. And we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.